All right. Hey, everybody, and welcome back to Cool Beans Hot Stuff. Whether you're watching on Twitch or YouTube, welcome. If this is your first time, which, if you're watching this, it probably is, because this is only my second time doing this. So if you're new to the channel, let me go over quickly what we do here. This is a little bit different than most of the Twitch channels that I've seen. Here we go over research. I kind of just decided that I wanted to make a Twitch channel where I research everything that I think is cool and try to learn a little bit more about it. So every day is a different topic that I stream on, do some research on. Today is Tuesday, which is my Terrifying Tuesdays. So, Terrifying Tuesdays, I go over scary shit. I like scary shit. I love horror movies, love scary stories, uh, anything scary, haunted houses on Halloween. Halloween's my favorite holiday. Anything scary, I love it. So, of course, I had to take at least one day of the week to do something scary, and Tuesday went really good with the word terrifying, and so you got Terrifying Tuesdays. So that's what we're doing today. Today we're going to go over something that's kind of spooky. We're going to go over the Bretzius family horror, and that's going to kind of jump into Dutch magic, glave, and brochere, and then powwowing. A lot of hard to say words there. We're going to go over all of them, and I'm going to kind of give you an introduction into the Bretzius family, what happened in there, their little scary story here. True scary story. It's not that scary, but it's kind of freaky. I mean, if it happened to me, I'd be freaked out. And then we're going to go into Dutch magic, what that is, because I had no idea that was a thing. And glavi, brochere, powwowing, hexeri, a whole bunch of these different crazy words that I'm willing to bet you probably didn't even know was a thing. 36 years on this planet, and I haven't heard a single one of these words, have no idea what they are until I heard this story. So, yeah, that's what we're going to be doing today. I think that's my intro. So, yeah, let's go ahead and dive in then. If I forgot something, I'll remember it later or it wasn't important. Okay, so the Bretzius family. What happened to these guys? This was in 2015, so this is kind of an old story. In spite of that, I never heard anything about this. And like I said, I watch scary shit all the time. YouTube, true crime stuff, I'm there, man. And I've never heard of this family's particular story. So let's go over it. So this was in Auburn, Pennsylvania. Oh no, another hard to say word. School, Schuylkill County, Schuylkill. Yeah, that's as close as I'm going to get, so let's just go with that. A Schuylkill County family made a disturbing discovery when they decided to insulate their home. The Bretzius family found the home was already in... ... Okay, let's fill in those dots. All right. Oh, burp. I'm getting a lot better at coming up all the human noises, burps, and farts that come out while I'm streaming, so hooray for me. Okay. We were shocked, horrified, and disgusted, Kajai Bretzius told WNEP. I wonder what Bretzius is, where that comes from. Oh, here we go. Here's the rest of those dots. The Bretzius family found their home was already insulated with dozens of, drumroll, dead animal carcasses, which is pretty freaky. That's pretty freaky. Yeah, so tons of animals, dead, obviously, lining the walls. And I don't mean like, a fucking squirrel fell back there and got stuck. Like hundreds of them. So Kajia Bretzius. Let's go back here. She said, we were shocked, horrified, and disgusted. The dead animals were wrapped in newspaper from the 1930s and 40s and were among half-used spices and other items. After removing the items, they sent hundreds of artifacts and carcasses to an expert in Kutztown. Is Pennsylvania just filled with people in towns and shit that's just really difficult to say? These really odd names, Bretzius, Kutztown, whatever that county was. The answer they received was what they call powwowing or Dutch magic. They use this to heal ailments, said Bretzius. Knowing why isn't making any of it easier for the Bretzius family, though. Insurance hasn't covered repairs, and paying for the issue has cost them $20,000. Whew. Now that's really, that's the true scary story right there. That sucks, man. Dead animal carcasses, that's a big bummer. But like I said, like he said, it's healing ailments. You know, they use it to heal ailments. You know, it's not like voodoo in your walls. 20 grand repair though. I just bought a house, and if I had to spend 20 grand to get all the dead animals out of my walls, I wouldn't be living in this house anymore. So there's that. They say the mold has caused family members to be sick and the smell hasn't gone away. Yeah, like you can imagine. Bretzius said the house was inspected before they bought it, but we got the radon inspection. We looked for everything. We didn't know to look for chickens. So I guess they had chickens in the wall. Since insurance won't cover it and they've run out of money, they started a GoFundMe account. See, that's a bummer. That's crazy, man. That's, to me, is so wild that your insurance wouldn't cover that, right? Like, that ain't your fault some asshole put a bunch of dead shit in your walls, you know? But, okay, so that's the gist of what happened to these poor people. Let's go ahead and take a look at the newscasting. I got a news thing that I looked up here on YouTube from 2015 to fill us in on some of the more grisly details. Let's take a look.
Schuylkill County, a family in the borough of Auburn is trying to clean out the walls of their home after they found dozens of animal carcasses hidden inside them.
Word of warning, some of the information and images in the story may be disturbing to some family members. News Watch 16's Jackie DeTore is live in the Wyoming Valley newsroom. Jackie?
Yeah, Marisa and Scott, imagine just trying to renovate a room in your home. Then when you start hammering away, you find dozens of dead animals and artifacts filling the inside of those walls. It happened to a family in Auburn, and now they don't know what to do.
Here is Betty's room.
The Bretzius family was just trying to add some insulation to rooms in their home in Schuylkill County, but instead
Schuylkill County, that's how you say that. It isn't spelled that way. As you can see here on the bottom, it is not spelled like Schuylkill County, all right? It's spelled like some crazy shit. Okay, and not on a different note, this guy really looks like Ted Raimi. I don't know if you guys know who that is, but speaking of scary shit, that's Sam Raimi's brother. He's in a bunch of movies, bunch of scary movies. This guy could be like a dead ringer for that dude. Okay, anyways, random fact.
Hidden inside
of those walls. It happened to a family in Auburn, and now they don't know what to do.
Here is Betty's room.
The Bretzius family was just trying to add some insulation to rooms in their home in Schuylkill County, but instead was already insulated with this. Dozens of dead animal carcasses, half-used spices, and other items filled behind layers of drywall.
We were shocked, horrified, and disgusted.
Kaya Bretzius says they first found animals in the walls back in 2012 and have been removing the items ever since. The dead animals were all wrapped in old newspapers from the 1930s and 40s. She says they got a home inspection before they bought the place in Auburn. The inspector didn't find a thing.
We got the radon inspected. We did everything.
That's crazy. They need to fire that guy.
We didn't know to look for chickens.
My brother is a home inspector. Well, yeah, they don't put chickens on the home inspection thing, but man, whoever inspected those walls, you know, because I got a home inspection and they looked in everywhere. They looked in the attic, they looked under the stairs, they look in the basement, they look every single place that they can. That's crazy that nobody thought to just be like, hey, let's look in this wall. You know, like, how did they get the fucking animals in there, right? Like, you know, like they had to some place where they shimmy them back there, you know. That's screw that guy. I feel like that's a lawsuit, or should be.
But now, that's all they've been doing.
Should ask my brother, see what he says.
Horrifying because it has completely drained our savings.
The horror in the wall isn't covered by insurance since the stuff was there before the family bought the policy. So they have to fix the issue
that's dirty.
And pay for it themselves, costing around $20,000 so far.
And this is all brand new drywall.
After the family removed the items, they wanted some answers. So they sent hundreds of the artifacts and carcasses to an expert in Kutztown. Now the family might know why someone would put such crazy things inside a wall.
What they call powwowing or Dutch magic, where they use this to heal ailments.
But knowing why the stuff was there.
Yeah, so on another note, here soon we'll go over what powwowing and Dutch magic is. They're not the same thing. It's really confusing, which is why this girl's like, I don't fucking know. Like, it's some fucking shit. They call it this or that or the other thing. I don't know. They fucked up my house. Fuck these guys. But we'll go over it so you know exactly what all these different things are, in case you ever find dead animals in your walls. Hopefully it doesn't happen to you. But uh, yeah, so, and yes, it is used for healing ailments. Actually, it's used for a lot of different things to ward off like evil spirits and all kind of shit. We'll get into it. Before long, you'll be way smarter than this chick.
There doesn't make it any easier. The mold caused almost everyone in the family to get sick, and the smell won't go away. The family isn't even sure if all of the dead animals are out of the house.
But we don't have the finances or the resources to rip out the tub wall where they're still there.
Now, the
That's
family says
creepy.
they still want to tear down some of those walls, especially in the bathroom, to check if there are any more dead animals. But since insurance won't cover it and they've run out of money, they've started a GoFundMe account. If you want to find that link, it's on our website, WNEP.com. Jackie DeTore, News Watch 16.
Okay, yeah. So I imagine at this point, I actually couldn't find anything else in my research about this family, what happened after the fact. You know, if they did end up getting all the animals out and if their GoFundMe worked. Hopefully it did, because that's a bummer. And burp. And yeah, so hopefully they got it all figured out, because they seem nice enough, right? They don't seem like the kind of people that deserve to have dead animals thrown on their walls. I could think of a few people that's okay. I wouldn't mind that happening too, but these people seem nice. Okay, so that sucks for them. Bretzius family, what a bummer, you guys. Hopefully they got it figured out. Like I said, I can't find any information on that anywhere on the internet. So, you know, I think people like to hear the scary part of your story. They never like to hear like, oh, and then everything, you know, went happily ever after. That's not as entertaining. It's more entertaining to find a giant fucking animal head in your wall. People like that more. So either way, that's their story. Pretty freaky. That in and of itself doesn't really constitute, like, you know, I heard it. I was like, ooh, that really sucks. What a bummer. Really, honestly, it's a $20,000 to fix that shit. And then the mold that's probably in those walls. I don't know what kind of mold you get from dead animal carcasses, but it ain't good for you. And that's really the scarier part of the story, right? Because like that lady was actually saying, and like I was telling you, the powwowing aspect of this is actually like, I guess it would be white magic is what it is, right? That's like the good kind of magic. Black magic is like your bad shit, your witches, you know, on a, you know, a broomstick and all that shit. And then your white magic is like, you know, your good magic, I guess. You know, it's like protecting people from evil and shit like that. And so that's kind of like whoever put the dead animals in their wall, like, I guess, think of it like this. If you had to have some random motherfucker put dead shit in your walls, it would be better to have them do it to protect your dumbass than it would be to have them do it because they're putting a curse on you, right? That would suck. That would be even worse. In this case, they did it. It was probably a previous owner that did it to protect their house or try to heal somebody in the house that had cancer or some shit. And ironically, they probably ended up killing them faster because they threw dead shit in the walls. But still, it could be worse. Could always be worse, right? You could always have like living animals in your wall. That would be much, much worse, right? Have a whole fucking elk stuck behind the plaster. So anyways, moving forward, I wanted to learn about what all this is, because I heard Dutch magic powwowing. I don't know about anybody here who's watching this or watches this on YouTube. Maybe you've heard of it. I sure as fuck haven't. I mean, I'm from Wyoming. We ain't got no like Dutch magic, throw dead shit behind your walls kind of shit out there, right? You know, we do got a lot of like Native American history, and they got a lot of different kinds of like, not so much magic, but I guess for lack of a better word, you can call it like shamanism. Some tribes have that. I don't think putting dead shit in your walls is included in it, but they do have stuff like that. You know, they definitely have their own myths and legends and that sort of thing. This, as you're about to find out, is like a whole fucking religious system that's out here in the Pennsylvania area. So I thought that was intriguing, and I kind of wanted to learn a little bit more about that. You know, like what exactly is Dutch magic, powwowing, and then you heard at the beginning of the stream, I gave you some other words, glave, braccieri, hexeri. All this stuff is interrelated, and we're going to learn what it is right now. And so in order to do that, I actually couldn't find a lot of articles comparing the various words that I just gave you, braccieri, hexeri, this, that, and the other thing. And then when I try to find individual articles just talking about this one thing, a lot of them had, what's the word? Contradictory information, where, this article would be like, oh, so yeah, putting dead animals on the wall, that's powwowing. And then some other article would be like, oh yeah, putting dead animals in the wall, that's braccieri, And then another article would be like, well, braccieri and powwowing aren't the same thing. So it's like, fuck. So we're just going to go with handy dandy AI, right? Because it knows everything. It's taken over the world, and we might as well just deal with it and jump on the gravy train. So we're going to ask AI to tell us what all this is. So what is Dutch magic? And I'm going to start with Dutch magic versus braccieri, right? Because we have 5 different terms here that we kind of need to unravel to understand what all of this is. We have powwowing, Dutch magic, braccieri, hexeri, and urglave. Okay, they all kind of intertwine. So, in the context of Pennsylvania Dutch folk tradition, braccieri, see, and even they say that, or powwowing, represents a form of white magic or faith healing, while hexeri refers to black magic or witchcraft, often seen as the opposite of braccieri. So, that's hexeri versus braccieri. Let me click on this one. And very powwowing. So, okay, essentially, Dutch magic is the over-encompassing term. All of this is Dutch magic. Hexeri, braccieri, powwowing, all Dutch magic. Okay, the good kinds of magic, or of white magic, Dutch magic, is braccieri. That's the white magic underneath Dutch magic. And then hexeri is the black magic or the witchcraft side of Dutch magic. And powwowing is actually another word for braccieri. So whoever told me that lied to me. So braccieri versus powwowing. Braccieri is the Pennsylvania Dutch term for powwowing, a folk healing tradition that blends religious beliefs with health and healing practices, often involving prayers, gestures, and ritual objects. They forgot to put dead animal carcasses in there, but we'll forgive them. So, braccieri refers to traditional healing ritual and folk practices within the Pennsylvania Dutch culture. Braccieri practitioners, also known as brachers, are seen as conduits to God for healing, using prayers, gestures, and objects. The term braccieri itself means ritual traditions in Pennsylvania Dutch. So, powwowing and braccieri are the same thing. It's healing magic, basically. Braccieri is the Pennsylvania Dutch term for this white magic, and powwowing is the English term. And we'll get to where these terms came from here later down the road. I got a whole history lesson for you guys, all planned out. Took me a couple hours to put this together. So I had another term in there that I mentioned, urglave. Why you probably saying, Tony, why are you throwing out all these random ass words and throwing them at us all at once? Well, because they all kind of intertwine. And if you're going to research any one of these things on your own, you're going to run into all these different terms. So I'm giving you an idea of where they all kind of structure in relation to each other, right? And urglave is one of those terms that the Bretzius family didn't mention it. It didn't really have a lot to do with what happened in their particular house, but it very closely relates to powwowing. So, what is urglave? Okay, well, while powwowing and urglave both relate to Pennsylvania German traditions, powwowing refers to the folk magic and healing practices, while urglave is the Pennsylvania German term meaning original faith, and represents a new religious movement that reinterprets these traditions within a heathenry context. What does that mean? Right? That almost sounds like it didn't give you any good information to go off of. Well, powwowing is the magic that comes from urglave, which is the religion, and that is how you say that. That urglave, urglave or orglave. I've seen it pronounced both ways in my research. I didn't know how to spell or how to pronounce Schuylkill or whatever county, Pennsylvania, but sue me. I know how. I definitely went out and figured out how to say that word, right? Because we're going to be saying it a lot. So urglave or orglave is the religion. Powwowing is the magic. Braceri is another word for powwowing. Braceri is the Dutch term for this magic. Powwowing is the English term. They all fall under Dutch magic as the general heading of where does all this shit come from? Dutch magic, okay? We'll take a look at that now. Orglave versus Dutch magic. Orglave and Dutch magic, specifically the folk magic and healing traditions of Braceri, also known as powwowing, are related but distinct. With Orglave being a Pennsylvania German term meaning original faith, we already went over that, reinterprets their traditions within a heathenry context, while Dutch magic encompasses the broader folk magic practices of Pennsylvania German culture. Okay, so there you go. Again, closely related. Dutch magic includes powwowing or braceri. The religion that feeds into all of this different magic is the Orglave. So what is hexeri? There's another word I threw out there. All these fucking words. You're learning so much today. Look at you. Hexeri was another word that I threw out there. We kind of went over it a little bit. It is the dark side of braceri. So hexeri versus Orglave. In the context of Pennsylvania Dutch culture, hexeri, or witchcraft, that's what that word actually means, and Orglave are distinct but related concepts. Orglave is a broader spiritual path encompassing pre-Christian beliefs, while hexeri and braceri, folk magic and healing traditions, are practices that inform and are informed by Orglave. Okay, so braceri is healing magic, hexeri is witchcraft, and they both fall under the heading of Dutch magic, which is the magic part of Orglave, which is the religion. So at this point, I feel like I've stressed it enough. You should probably get the general idea. And so what I wanted to go through now was a little history lesson. Hopefully you like history. Let's see. This should be the origins, of hexeri. We're going to do a little history lesson on all this shit. I got history of the Pennsylvania Dutch. Like, who are these people? Who the fuck practices Orglave, right? Or does anybody still practice it? Turns out they do. I actually got some about that later. But yeah, so what is Orglave? Where does the Pennsylvania Dutch come from? These people who have this crazy religion. And what is this crazy religion, man? Like, where can I get some? Where do I read about Orglave and learn a little bit of Dutch magic? We'll go over that too. I'll introduce you to the whole religion. Not the whole religion, because it's a religion. It's got a lot going on for it. It's a pretty old religion too. Obviously, they said they found all of those skeletons in the Bretzius family house were from like the 1930s and 1940s. So it's been going on for a long time, and we'll get into the entire history of it. Let's see, what else did I have for you today? We have the history of the Pennsylvania Dutch, history of powwowing or braceri, history of Orglave, the religion, history of hexeri, and then we're going to get into the actual Orglave religion, some of the beliefs that they have, some of the deities, and then I'm going to show you some braceri spells that you can practice at home to protect yourself if you will feel like you want to dive into that and put some dead animals in your walls. Not all of them are dead animals in your walls. I still actually didn't find the spell, so I looked very hard for the spell or the spell that will require you to put animal carcasses and pepper in your walls. And I didn't end up finding it. So that must have been a hand-me-down spell. There was actually a lot of like hand-me-down spells. When I got on Reddit, there was plenty of people from Pennsylvania that were like, oh yeah, I heard you fucking rub a fucking clove of garlic on your foot and it gets rid of foot pain or whatever. And that used to be a thing my grandma told me. And then when you look it up, that was a braceri tradition, as if you had like, foot pain, an ingrown nail, a fucking bunion, rub some garlic on that bitch and it goes away. According to these people. So, all right, who are these people? Let's learn a little bit about them, right? Because this is a part of like American history that they don't teach you about this shit in school, right? For good reason, because why the fuck do we care, really? Why would anybody really care that much? It's just a really interesting and neat fact. When I think of like magic and I think of, in magic, just, I think of Europe. I think of like medieval times, was where there was a lot of magic. I think of like voodoo, stuff like that, hoodoo, that kind of stuff. I don't ever think of like Dutch people. Like, it had never occurred to me that Dutch people came from Germany over to America and brought their own specific religion and all their own specific spells to go with it. You know, we'll learn a little bit about it, but essentially, Orglave is a form of, oh, what do they call it? Definitely not Protestants. I almost said Protestants. Protestants would be pissed. I don't know if Protestants are still a thing, but it's definitely not Protestants. It's well, we're gonna have to get into it because I forgot the word, so we'll jump in. Okay, so Pennsylvania Dutch origins. The story of the Pennsylvania Dutch begins in Germany. Their ancestors were mainly from the Palatine. Okay, another word I can't say. Palatinate. The Palatinate of the southern Rhineland in Germany. The Palatinate was a significant area of contention during the 30 Years' War, which pitted the French against the Holy Roman Empire regarding the issue of Protestantism. Shit, maybe these people are Protestants. Germany's population was suffering, and many groups, including the Catholics and of Palatine origin, fled to find Palatine, like Emperor Palatine. Yeah, it's Palatine. Okay. Huh, I wonder if that's where they got Emperor Palatine from. Okay, anyways, including the Catholics of Palatine origin, fled to find safety abroad. This brought many groups of Germanic peoples to America, hoping to find a settlement where they could practice their religion and create businesses in peace. This group of settlers was called the Fancy Dutch. Their descendants are still mostly Catholic, Lutheran, and Reformed Christians. The Fancy Dutch comprise a group of Pennsylvania Dutch that is well less known today, as they have fully assimilated into American culture. So that's the Fancy Dutch, right? The Palatine Catholics were not the only religious group to be persecuted, though. Plain Dutch were the groups like the Amish, the Mennonites, and other Anabaptists that become refugees from from that region of France, the Netherlands, and Switzerland. They first sought refuge in Germany and then immigrated to Pennsylvania, hoping to finally escape the religious persecution. These groups of Anabaptists are more familiar to the average American as their descendants have not changed much since their settlement in the United States. The Amish and the Mennonites communities were called the Plain Dutch because of their simple lifestyles. So, these people are kind of related to the Amish. We've all heard of the Amish, right? I've never known Amish people to have like a magic. I didn't know if that's a thing. Maybe it is. Any Amish people watch this stream on YouTube or anything like that? Maybe comment and let me know if y'all know some magic shit. The Pennsylvania Dutch are referred to as such because at the time of their arrival in America, all Germanic languages were called Dutch or Deutsch in English. Deutsch, I don't know how to pronounce that, Dutch, regardless of whether they came from what we consider Dutch countries today. The Pennsylvania Dutch took their new status as American settlers seriously, thus prompting the title of Pennsylvania Dutch, as it distinguishes them from other European Germans who began filtering into the United States later in the 19th and 20th centuries. Man, I am burpy today. All kinds of burps. The immigration of the Pennsylvania Dutch to America. So we kind of got the gist that they immigrated here. They were immigrants. Pennsylvania Dutch after settlement. I think this is where we jump into their religion. The Pennsylvania Dutch's contribution to the United States began before independence and carried on throughout the coming centuries. In the Revolutionary War, the Maréchaussee Corps, called the Pennsylvania Dutch Provost Corps, served as a policing regiment which provided security, gathered intelligence, dealt with prisoners of war, and participated in active combat. During the Battle of Yorktown, the Pennsylvania Dutch provost were employed as George Washington's personal security detail while also protecting his headquarters. The Provost Corps was a predecessor to the United States Military Police Corps of today, but they were not liked by the rest of the Continental Army, as they spoke too little to no English and were joined in their ranks by British prisoners of war. Okay, this is them in Civil War. Let's see. They're composed of largely Pennsylvania Dutch and German immigrants. They played a large part in the Battle of Gettysburg, the bloodiest Civil War battle. That would be kind of cool to do an episode on some of those super bloody Civil War battles. You know, you hear it from a lot of people, but still a lot of people don't realize that the Civil War was by far the bloodiest war that America ever got in, right? Because it was exclusively Americans that were killing each other well into the hundreds of thousands. It was after this that growing recognition of the Pennsylvania Dutch as an ethnic group began. They would fight for their rights as Old Heritage Americans throughout the late 19th and early 20th centuries. This especially increased during the anti-German sentiment during the World Wars. Pennsylvania Dutch fought in the American armed forces during both conflicts but found their cultural identity fading after 1945, when many people gave up their traditional language for English. So this is religion. This is where I kind of wanted to dive into, because I believe it gets into Erglave. We will see. Okay. The language has endured in the 21st century thanks in part to many of its speakers having strict rules surrounding their culture and traditions. Although those who identified as Fancy Dutch essentially assimilated to American culture and gave up their ancestral language for English, groups of plain Dutch, like the Amish, still speak it as a first language in their communities. Oh shit, see, I didn't know that. Those who speak Pennsylvania Dutch today are also mostly still able to communicate with modern Germans, meaning the language has not been altered by immigration to the point of losing its original characteristics. Okay, so all Amish people generally speak German. That's kind of cool. Religion varies within the groups of the Pennsylvania Dutch. The Old Order, of which the Amish are the most famous group, strictly adheres to Anabaptist religious teachings. Anabaptism dictates that its followers live a traditional and simple lifestyle akin to that of early Christian teachings. They do not believe in modern technology per the simplicity of faith. With the simplicity of religion comes the simplicity of life. So I think we all knew that about the Amish. This kind of goes over the Amish, their fancy beards, all of that. Of course, other religious veins in the Pennsylvania Dutch believe in all the modern comforts of American culture. The Fancy Dutch, those most likely to have assimilated into American society, are members of the Catholic, Lutheran, and Reformed German churches. In essence, the religion of many members of the Pennsylvania Dutch doesn't look very different than the religions of Americans with varying ancestries. Okay, so more on the Dutch in society. I don't know if these people are going to jump into Erglave. They don't. That's a bummer. But at least we know more about the Pennsylvania Dutch. So these are the people that brought over Erglave from Germany, brought over Dutch magic, brochere, hexery, all of that. And that's what we're going to do a little bit of learning about now. So, your thing. Yesterday I got kind of sick. I had like a sore throat and a little bit of a nose thing. The nose thing is all gone, but my sore throat, it's still there. And it's, one of those fucking sore throats where it hurts like up into your ear. It's a real pain in the ass, man. Okay, moving on. Enough bitching. Folk Magic Powwow, History and Practices. So, the folk magic powwow is not the same as the Native American ritual. So I guess that's an important distinction that we didn't go over. A lot of people hear the word powwow and they think of the Native American tradition of powwow. This is not that. Not even remotely related. Okay, so powwow, also known as brochere, is a form of folk magic and healing remedies which originated in Pennsylvania among the people of German descent. We already knew that. This collection of rituals, charms, and traditional medicine was born in Europe and came to Pennsylvania with early settlers during America's colonial period. Let's see. Powwow definition. Although the words are similar, the folk magic practice of powwow is not the same as the Native American practice of powwow, which is a social event bringing together people of different backgrounds for celebrations, rituals, song, and dance. Interestingly, both Native American powwow and the Pennsylvania Dutch folk magic practice of powwow have the same etymology. The word powwow itself originated from the Algonquian nation. That's a Native American nation right there. That's a Native American tribe. I don't know how to say their name. And refers to a curative healing ritual. Today, some practitioners use the word brochere to avoid confusion with the Native American terminology. So the history and origins of powwowing. In the 17th century, most of the people living in the area that is now Pennsylvania were Native Americans. Tribes like the Algonquian Lenape and the Iroquois and the Susquehannock, Susquehannock, I just butchered all of that, were indigenous to the region, and other groups like the Shawnee and Mohawk occasionally made their way into the territory. By 1700s or so, that had all changed. Both the Dutch and the English tried to lay claim to the lands on either side of the Delaware River. During the late 17th century and on into the 18th, settlers from Europe poured into the area, claiming land along with what was then the frontier. Many of these new arrivals were German-speaking, and some had and some had fled religious persecution in their home countries. They brought with them a number of different religious traditions. Although many of them were staunch Lutherans and Protestants, there were also Amish, Mennonites, and Anabaptists. We already went over that, right? After settling in eastern Pennsylvania, they became known as the Pennsylvania Dutch, or Pennsylvania German Community. They weren't truly Dutch like people from the Netherlands. Instead, the use of Dutch is an adaptation of Deutsch, which means German. Okay. I got it right that time, Deutsch. Many of the practices these settlers brought with them were religious traditions with origins from the period prior to the Reformation. They venerated the saints of the Roman Catholic Church and used prayers and liturgical blessings for everyday activities. When it came to matters of healing, they often included consecrated objects and invocations in tandem with herbal remedies. Sacred symbols were invoked for protection. This can still be seen today in the hex signs that adorn many barns. And we'll actually go over some pictures of these hex signs that they used to use in Dutch magic. They're kind of cool. They're actually kind of pretty. Not your typical hex, right? Not like something you'd find in one of those like grimoires or something on like your favorite witch TV show. As these new settlers on the frontier came into contact with their Native American neighbors, the word powwow, which referred to a trance-like healing ritual, was adopted and applied to the folk traditions that they practiced. In the early 1800s, a book entitled Powwows or Long Lost Friend was published by John George Haman, who had collected a series of charms, folk remedies, spells, and talismans. The book became one of the key foundations of powwow practice in Pennsylvania. And you'll want to remember that because we dive into a little bit more true crime at the end of this stream. And that book has a pretty nefarious background. Not nefarious, infamous background to it. So here are some of their practices and beliefs. This is some of the interesting things that powwowing involves, right? Okay, so in powwow, perhaps the most valuable text a practitioner can have on hand is the Bible. The theory is that healing magic comes from God, and therefore use of scripture for healing is the only truly Christian way to practice magical folk remedies. Many charms and spells included in powwow have their origins in the practice of medieval European Catholics, who often used them to protect themselves against malevolent witchcraft. Other literature used for reference includes Homan's book and esoteric works like the 6th and 7th Book of Moses and Roman something. Charms and spells found in powwow include some of the following. All right, so listen up for all you witches out there. You need to know this. To protect cattle, mix up a blend of wormwood, asafoetida, and other herbs with soil from your stable and some salt. Combine these in a fabric pouch and bury it under the threshold to your barn where the cattle enter and exit. This will keep them safe from theft and disease. Another burp. I need to start counting these things. Wonder if I can hit 100 in a stream. To treat a fever, turn your shirt inside out for 3 mornings in a row. As you do, say, "Turn thou shirt, and fever likewise turn." And tell thee this in the name of God, the Father, the Son, and the Holy Spirit. After the 3rd day, the fever will subside. Wow, I wonder if they have something for sore throats. I'd be willing to give it a try, because this shit is bothering me. Okay, if you're going to court and want a favorable outcome, write the words, "I appear before the house of the judge. 3 dead men look out of the window, one having no tongue, the other having no lungs, and the third sick, blind, and dumb," on a piece of paper. Carry it in your pocket as you go to court and repeat the incantation before you see the judge. That's weird. I mean, all of it's a little bit kooky, but that one's kind of odd. To stop bleeding, breathe upon the injured person 3 times and recite the Lord's Prayer 3 times, stopping when you get to the words "upon the earth." Just imagine you like get shot or like break your leg and you're like bleeding profusely and some person comes over and breathes on your wounds. Not to make fun of like the powwowers, right? But that's pretty kooky. That's kind of crazy. I mean, this is kind of what's fun about looking into magic, right? We will get into some of the creepier hexery stuff, some of the more black magic stuff here a little later. But it is fun to go over some of these spells and incantations they have. And whatever, I don't care what the kind of witchcraft is. It's always entertaining just to read into some of this stuff. Lastly, powwow practices can also be used to cure warts and burns, prevent theft, or even compel a thief to return stolen goods. In addition, homes and people can be protected from harm. Okay. So this is saying today many people still practice powwow. Practitioners are sometimes referred to as bracheren if they're female or bracheri if they are male. Among some Pennsylvania Dutch communities, practitioners are simply called the powwow doctor or the powwower. Traditional powwow is passed along as part of an oral tradition, taught from male practitioners to female and vice versa. In general, powwow practices are only taught to students who plan to use them to help others. All right. So that's where powwowing comes from. So we kind of got a general gist of where all this is coming from, right? We got the Dutch, the Germans, not really Dutch, Deutsch, come over from Germany, land in Pennsylvania, take their new status as Americans very seriously, bring over their religious beliefs and practices, meet the Native Americans. The Native Americans have a really cool word called powwowing. They're like, fuck, I love that word. And so they steal it and they take it and they say, well, we're going to start powwowing now too, bitch. Okay, and this is the history of the orglave, because we haven't really gone over too much of that. Orglave, the word is difficult for non-speakers of Pennsylvania German. The component sounds like an or like the hour in the word tor. So orglave. Primary stress falls on this syllable. Then the sounds like the word like from pa. And then we sounds like ve or glave. And that's how you know that I was saying it right. And you doubted me, didn't you? So what does this convoluted word mean? And the prefix or carries the connotation of primal. In fact, it is related to the or in original and assatuar. Don't know what that means. We'll immediately see the relation to the prefix or in orlog, or log in Pennsylvania German. Glave is a Pennsylvania German word for faith or religion. Therefore, the two components together form, or glave, the original faith. The religion of the Teutons, or the Norse Germanic people, is known by a variety of names, each with some differences based usually on the particular region or tribal focus of that group. While the Pennsylvania Germans did not exist as a distinct people prior to the Christian conversion in Europe, we descend from those who did practice the original faith. As with our kin in other regions, some traditions continued on after the conversion, and many traditions were brought by our elders to the Americas during the diaspora. Once in the Americas and out from under the more oppressive arms of certain church bodies, many of the heathen undertones of our culture were allowed to flourish, to the point that many people do not even think twice about the pre-Christian origins of some of the practices. So that's an important thing to note about the Orglave religion. A lot of it is mixed with Christianity. A lot of it comes before Christianity, which that fucking word, man, that I can't remember, that's pre-Christian. It's a pre-Christian system of beliefs. There's a whole bunch of different religions that fall under it. You had Romans, Egyptian, Greek mythology. You had Hindu, and then pagan fucking balls. Oh my god, that was gonna like upset me the rest of the stream. I've been thinking about it the whole time I've been reading this. I'm like, what is that fucking word? Pagan, that's the word. So some of this stuff comes from more pagan rituals. It's a form of paganism. Some of it is. Not all of it. Okay, our task is to identify the practices that have been handed down to us by our forebears, to recognize them, to understand their meaning, and to share them with the wider heathen community. So, by heathens, what does that word heathen actually mean? Let me just type that in so I know. Heathen, definition. A person who does not belong to a widely held religion, like Christian, Jew, or Muslim, as regarded by those who do. Okay, so when he means heathen, when they're using the term heathen in this right here, many of the heathen undertones, they mean anything that's religious, but it isn't Christianity, Islam, or Jewish. Judaism, that's it. That's the other word I was looking for. Okay. In addition, the goal of Pennsylvania German Heathen Alliance for the Orglave is to use what we learn from our own culture and glean what we learn from heathens with different cultural roots to produce lore and bodies of knowledge in our own language and cultural context. One certainly need not speak Pennsylvania German in order to be a part of achieving these goals. English is an equally used medium, but the survival, advancement of our unique language heritage is extremely important to us. Please make no mistake about it. We do not consider ourselves to be faith separate from Asatru. We consider ourselves to be weaving our own particular threads into the larger Asatru tapestry, much as those who are focused more on Anglo-Saxon or continental Germanic religious practices are doing. We are geared towards esoteric aspects, braccieri, hexeri, runes, meditation, etc., but anyone who has knowledge or an interest in exploring heathenry in the Pennsylvania German context is invited to work with us. And I got all of this that you just read from www.erglave.blogspot.com. This is a whole blog, obviously written by somebody who is a practitioner of the Erglave faith, which is still going fairly strong today. I don't know how many people are consider themselves Erglaves nowadays, but there's still plenty of them around. So, okay, so you got a good understanding now, or should have a generally good understanding of where Dutch magic comes from. It comes from the Pennsylvania Dutch, right? Where powwowing comes from. Powwowing is just another word for braccieri. Braccieri and powwowing are the white magic aspects of Dutch magic, which comes from the Pennsylvania Dutch people who came here from Germany. You know what Erglave is. Erglave is the religion that the Pennsylvania Dutch brought over from Germany. It has some pre-Christian and Christian roots to it. So there's a little paganism mixed in there with Christian beliefs, which makes it kind of its own unique thing. And let's see, we're going to kind of set up some more web pages real quick so we can kind of, we'll save all that for later. Okay. Now we want to learn a little bit about hexeri, right? Hexeri is like the dark shit. This is the bad shit, son. This is that black magic shit. You don't want none of this, Dewey. This is the black side, the black magic to Braccieri's white magic, all right? As in most traditions of magic, there are pro-social and anti-social uses of esoteric knowledge. This division is commonly referred to as black and white magic. However, the line between them isn't so, well, black and white. In the context of the Pennsylvania Dutch folk magic, these two forms are called braccieri and hexeri. So braccieri, let's learn. We already kind of learned about that. That's powwowing, remember, but we'll read what these people have to say just for the sake of it. Originating in Pennsylvania German communities, braccieri or powwowing combines European folk magic with Christian prayers and Catholic-inspired charms and is primarily used for healing and protection. In other words, magic is used in defensive manner to ward off natural or supernatural harm. Powwow practitioners do not think of themselves as witches. For some Pennsylvania Dutch communities, there is no conflict between their Christian faith and the use of their traditional folk magic. Some denominations strictly forbid folk magic in any form. It is often said that brachers derive their gifts from the God of Abraham. The most well-known collection of powwow charms, inscriptions, home references is Powwows or Long Lost Friend by John George Hammond. One famous locus of powwowing activity was Heckenkopf, Witch's Head Rock in eastern Pennsylvania. Okay, so hexeri, the self-serving, evil, criminal, and antisocial use of magical knowledge is called hexeri or sorcery. The German word for witch is hex, also sometimes called hex doctors, although not all hex doctors use their powers for evil. These practitioners are often accused of having sold their souls to the devil. There are 3 ways someone becomes a witch. 1. Boil a black cat or toad alive. Oh, that's horrible. Poor cat. Toss the bones into a stream or creek. 1 bone will float against the current. This will become the witch's source of power. Number 2, method 2 for becoming a witch. Draw a circle on the ground with coal. Step into the circle holding out your hand. The devil will appear. And number 3, stand next to a manure pile. Well, I'm going with number 1 or 2. I'm boiling the cat. Sorry. Stand next to a manure pile while swinging a hook into the air. The person must deny Christ and promise themselves to the devil. While swinging a hook into the air. Like a fish hook? I don't know. We need a little bit more explanation on that one. But, if that doesn't work, you can go pick a pile of shit to stand next by and swing a hook. And if it doesn't turn you into a witch, you got 2 other methods right there. The 6th and 7th books of Moses is a volume associated with hexeri. It is alleged the book is the work of Moses and contains spells used to control, contain, and summon demons, plagues, and more. An older and less common grimoire text is Egyptian Secrets of Albertus Magnus. Albertus Magnus was a German Catholic saint and has been falsely called an alchemist and magician. There is little evidence connecting him to alchemic practices or the writing of the Egyptian secrets. That's really interesting. The 6th and 7th books of Moses contain spells used to control the work of Moses himself. That's kind of cool. That would be neat to do a whole stream just on like different types of grimoires, right? Like the 6th and 7th book of Moses and the Egyptian Secrets of Albertus Magnus. That would be cool to like go through each individual grimoire, find them on the internet, try to find like bits and pieces of them and see what sort of crazy shit is inside of them. That would be awesome. Oddly enough, this website is called the Ketchup Legend Blogspot, and the name of it is The Legend of the Ketchup Man. And there was nothing in there about a ketchup man. I don't know why it's called that. The Real Ketchup Man. Hold on. Okay, let's see if we can track down what the fuck a ketchup man is. This is a little bit off topic, but I just saw that and I'm intrigued. I don't know. Are you intrigued? I want to know what the Real Ketchup Man is. So hopefully you'll come along with me. We'll figure this out. Ketchup in varying forms has existed for hundreds, if not thousands of years. However, the first reference to Ketchup Man in Amish country appears in the last 19th century. In 1880, entrepreneur Jeremiah Yoder brings the first tomato and vinegar-based ketchup products to the Anabaptist of Lancaster, Pennsylvania. He is said to have built his first roadside ketchup stand near what is today Shady Maple Smorgasbord in East Earle, Pennsylvania. So the Ketchup Man was the guy that invented ketchup. Well, the mystery is over, but it was much less exciting than I thought it would be. I don't know why, but I heard like the Ketchup Man. I'm like, ooh, what the fuck is this? This is like some sort of like Hexeri ghost guy. You know, no, it's just the guy who invented ketchup, bro. That's all it is. Okay. Let's see. What was this? Oh, so this is an interesting fact. So we've gone over Orglave, right? Where it comes from, what it is, yada, yada, yada. We're going to go over a little bit more. There's some interesting, you know what? I might actually go over this first. Yeah, we'll hit this side first. So we've gone over Orglave, where it comes from. Now I kind of wanted to dive into the religion of Orglave, read a little bit about it. What's it about, right? And, you know, we don't need to go over this whole, well, I guess this whole text is only 2 pages, so I guess we probably could. But what I have here is a list of Orglave gods. And there's an interesting thing here that you might notice. Let me see if I can point it out there. I needed that little window to close, and it came back. Well, fuck you too. Well, here we go. We can look right here. So, I can't highlight it. I'm going to have to change the setting on that. I'm going to have to get my cutie pie. She tells me how to change these settings because I actually just bought a PC. I've used Mac forever. So this is my first time using PC. But behind the chat box right here, you see Loki. Loki is best described as a trickster figure. He has played pranks and created dissension among the gods, and he will fight against them at Ragnarok. Nonetheless, his escapades have provided the gods with great benefits. Although a Jotun, he is Odin's sworn blood brother. Okay, so to all you Thor fans out there, or Norse fans, you got Loki, you heard the term Ragnarok, Odin. Essentially, a lot of these gods from Orglave are Norse gods. So you got Loki, Odin, as you just saw. Let's see some of the more common ones. Freya. Frey's sister rules over magic, sexuality, and riches. She is taught the form of shamanic magic known as seed, which is similar to Orglavier cordwork to Wodan. She is also a battle goddess. She takes half of those slain in battle to be with her. So Freya is a pretty well-known Norse god. Loki, obviously, is a pretty big one, too. Let's see who else we got here. Thor is in here, by the way. I just forget they have a different name for him. So, here we go. Dunur. Dunur is the son of Wodan and Urd. Thor is a storm god. The lightning is his thrown hammer. with which he defends deities and humans against the Jotun. He also brings the rain that makes the fields fertile, and his hammer blesses marriages and other ceremonies. So their name for Thor is Dunner or Duner. I don't know exactly how to pronounce that. Frigg, I think, is another one. Like, God, Frigg. Woden's wife wards over households, families, birth, and children. She weaves the fabric of Wort, which is fate, so she is perhaps outside of its effects. Due to her placement above the fates, Orglaviers see her as a goddess of time and space. She is Woden's match in wisdom. She shares his high seat from which they look out over the worlds together. And then Woden. Woden is the giver of inspiration and magic, the stir of battle frenzy, and one of the creators of humans. He works in countless ways and guises to hold, I don't know how to pronounce that word, for as long as possible. The bravest of slain warriors live on in his hall, Walhall, and will fight for him at the word I can't pronounce. So, yeah, basically, this Orglave, it's a German religion, and it gets most of its gods from Norse religion. It has very similar gods. Sometimes they have slightly different names, like Duner and Thor. But yeah, it is essentially similar to the Norse religion. So there's also a lot of, Orglave. I don't know if you could say they essentially borrowed these gods, because I couldn't really I couldn't find if Orglave was older than other Norse religions. But I was able to find that there's actually a lot of different Norse religions, and they all share these common gods. So that's really cool. Orglave got these gods from Norse, or shares it with them. And we, here in America, actually got some of our cultural staples from the Orglave. Believe it or not, you believe in Orglave practice. If you're an American, every year, there is a specific day where we all recognize a Orglave practice, or a Germanic paganist practice, which is Groundhog Day. Groundhog Day comes from a Germanic pagan religions, aka one of those being Orglave. It is known in Germanic pagan religions as Etschanin. I don't know how to say that word. There's so many syllables right there together. Ntscht. That's so many syllables. I don't know how you would even pronounce that. I got to work on my German, I guess. Okay, Ashantin is one of several important holiday seasons in the Orglave calendar. This word means emerging, and the season lasts for 12 days and nights. It is referred to as the single busiest of all holidays in Orglave, and it comes with layers of lore to understand. But much like all other neo-pagan traditions, it is centered around the beginning of spring, fertility, and the hearth. You will certainly see several parallels between the traditions described here and the traditions described in Imbolc article. Okay. As we begin to welcome the spring, there are several aspects of this season to keep in mind. And the first one right there is Groundhog Day. Groundhog Day, like pucks of what, Phil? Oh, I read that and I was like, what the fuck am I reading? That's from the movie Groundhog Day. Okay, yes and no. Puxawati Phil and the televised hype around Groundhog Day stems from Pennsylvania Dutch tradition. Orglave takes from the same source, but with a pagan perspective and a focus on folk traditions. Many European traditions, from Germanic to Irish, would observe badgers or similar animals in the early spring to predict changes in weather. If you planted your fields too early, the frost would kill them. If you planted too late, you would miss out on the harvest. Yeah, I'm dealing with that now. I just got in that new house, like I said, and I'm planning on planting peppers, a bunch of hot spicy cayennes, and sunflower seeds this year. This is my first time ever planting anything in my life. I've never gardened at all. And the first thing that everything says is, oh, plant them after your last frost. And I'm like, how the fuck do I know what the last frost is? Why can nobody tell me this? Well, there is somebody who can tell you this. It is a groundhog. A groundhog can tell you that. Knowing when to plant was of the utmost importance. When the Pennsylvania Dutch settled in North America, they likened the groundhog to the badger, and thereafter Groundhog Day was born. Orglave traditions compare the groundhog to Rottosk. I don't even... That word has a Yggdr all together. Yggdrasil. Just as this squirrel runs up and down the tree bringing messages, so too does a groundhog travel through its burrow, emerging from different openings to inspect the world and bring messages. Namely, that message is about the weather and beginning of spring, but groundhogs bring many other messages. So on Groundhog Day, remember that there is hope because the spring will come. You can do a ritual for the land spirits and for nature. In particular, you can honor an animal native to North America who travels realms and announces the beginnings of spring and spring weather to us in this realm. Okay, so I just thought that was kind of a cool little bit of Orglave history. The Pennsylvania Dutch, those crazy kids that came over here from way back when, decided that they're like, yeah, a fucking groundhog kind of looks like a badger, so let's just go with that, and boom, we had Groundhog Day. We can thank them for that. So, we're not so different, you and I, the Orglave. We actually have a little bit more in common with them than what we thought, which is kind of cool, I think, to be honest. You're all already half a pagan witch. You just don't know it. And here, let me just pull up my last few slides. Okay, so also I did want to kind of tell this story on a separate note because we got a lot of time. I actually, unfortunately, whizzed through this stream way faster than I thought I would. I thought there would be a lot more diving into the different religions and stuff like that. I mean, I saved what did I save here? 20 different web pages, and I just blitzed through those. So I don't know. Sometimes I have a tendency to talk too much or talk too fast. Maybe I talked way too fast this stream. It's only my second stream. I'm still getting used to learning how to do this. So, sue me. This stream might end early tonight, which is, I'm okay with that because, like I said, it's one of my first streams. And I don't think anybody is probably watching, except for Cutie Pie. My Cutie Pie is probably watching this. But yeah, so anyways, funny story, since we got plenty of time and we're kind of we whizzing through this particular stream. We have a groundhog in my neighborhood. And he is super cute. I didn't know groundhogs were so cute. They're like cute little furry fucking things. They're like, and I don't know what a badger looks like. Oh no, I know what a badger looks like. I got chased by a badger when I was like 12 years old, and it was terrifying. Badgers are not cute and cuddly. If you see a badger, don't fuck with it. In fact, it's kind of odd that they picked a groundhog to be like a badger because the two don't look alike. Maybe there's different kinds of badgers, but the badgers we have back in Wyoming, where I'm from, they're spooky looking motherfuckers. They're not to be fucked with. They hiss. They do all kinds of shit. But the groundhogs, they're adorable. They're cute. They're cuter than a bug's butt. We have one running around the neighborhood. And my parents saw it. I saw it like 2 or 3 times. And I was like, what the fuck is that? Is that like a giant rat? My parents were like, yeah, I don't know, man. That looks like it's a giant rat. My dad was like, maybe it's a really big prairie dog. Because that's what we got in Wyoming. Prairie dogs. We don't got a lot of rats, but prairie dogs, we got a lot of those. And it took me a while to meet my neighbors. My neighbor Bob, I have 3 neighbors, and I have 4 neighbors. 3 of them are named Bob. And the Bob to the left of me is an older guy, and he knew what it was. I asked him about it, and he said, oh yeah, that's a groundhog. And it jumps up and back and forth in between people's lawns, runs under their bridge, all that good stuff. And it doesn't mess with you, so don't mess with it. If it comes and starts digging around your house to burrow around your house, then you'll want to pick a bone with it. But other than that, it's just a cute little fat, big old like chipmunk looking thing. It's really adorable. Okay, so this is some of the charms that they had. So that was what we were going to go over next. Braccieri hexes and spells. I thought that would be kind of cool to go over some of the healing magic that they use in Braccieri. I thought it would have been even cooler to dive into some of the hexery shit that they had going on, right? Some of the more spooky stuff. And couldn't find any of that shit, man. So for all you witches out there, I'm sorry. I tried my best to support the witch community, but I couldn't find nothing for you guys. So you're going to have to do your own research. Maybe I'll do a little bit more deep diving, and on a different stream, we'll get into some of the different witch spells that they have. But for now, we're going to dive into some of the cool Braccieri spells that they have. We already went over a couple of them, right? Put a bunch of shit together, plant it under the ground, your cow walks over it, nobody can steal your cow, right? Somebody's bleeding, run over there and breathe on that shit. right? So we went over some of that. Here's some other stuff that we got from Braccieri. Okay. So, magic healers in the Netherlands and Belgium. Magic healers are known under many names in the area that is now the Netherlands and Belgium. They are often correlated with other cunning folk. One name of a certain kind of healing is Bezetin. It was especially known in Drenthe and Groningen in the northeast of the Netherlands. The striker would heal ill and wounded body parts from otter bites, bee stings, and warts, and many other inconveniences. These are also able to heal cows and horses. One farmer in Roden was especially known to be able to do all of this. He could even take down a swarm of bees out of the air into a tree by whispering a formula. Oh shit. That's pretty crazy. Healing magic in plants, burying diseases. Oh, okay, here we go. So, healing magic of trees and plants. An old and in Europe, that sentence isn't correct, but whatever. Okay, I'm a writer, so I read this and I'm like, that wasn't put together very well. An old and in Europe well-known manner of healing is transmitting a disease from the diseased to a tree, plant, or animal by binding it with a thread or a piece of fabric. If one loosens a thread or fabric, they get the disease instead. In Roman Catholic areas, people skipped from trees to the doors of special chapels. Related to this might be the practice of, I can't pronounce that word, which literally means to write off. This was supposed to help especially against fever, to write off. So Martin, this fella named Martin Teenstra, notes how in Zevenhuizen near Del Leek, one would cut 2 lines in a piece of turf when a person had been ill for 2 days, and 3 when they had been ill for 3 days. This was then thrown into the fire. These lines could also be cut into a tree. So if you got a disease, just tie a string to a disease and tie a string to a tree and fuck that tree up. Give the tree the disease instead. Broken bones could be healed by hitting a nail into the nail tree, a lime tree in Ide in the northern Netherlands, while saying certain words and taking off one's hat. This lime tree was popular up until a century ago, and it was visited even by people from Germany. Willows and poplars are also known to have been used in this way. When the head of the nail has been completely overgrown, the wound is healed. Oh. I don't know if I want to try that one out. I need a broken bone to try it out. I think I would rather go to the hospital. I'm just going to go on a limb and say a hospital sounds a bit better than that. Burying disease. Closely following the idea of the nail in the tree is another widely held belief that says that if one buried some part or possession of the sick person, the disease would disappear together with the buried object. For example, someone with rheumatics, I think that's like rheumatoid arthritis, would urinate in a newly made urine, which was then buried in the ground so that the person could be healed of his rheumatics. Oh. So if you have rheumatoid arthritis, just pee in a pot and bury it in the ground. Why didn't you think of that, dumbass? Come on. That's pretty crazy. Okay. Cures against bedwetting. Because bedwetting does require a cure. It's just one of those horrible ailments. How strange and varied folk remedies can be. Well, yeah, say it lightly. Shows this list of cures against bedwetting that Tier Lawn gives. The eating of, among other things, a roasted mouse, a roasted chicken stomach, bread with salt, a spoonful of salt, 2 eggs, spoons of soot in the evening, the roasted placenta of a sow. There's a lot of that didn't sound too good. I'd take the bread with the salt. I'll try that one. And if it didn't work, I'd probably just stop pissing myself. Or one could drink tea made of stone nettles, a decoction of cherry stems, or cooked milk with onions. Ooh, God, that almost sounds worse than the chicken stomach. Sympathetic magic can be found in the eating of porridge with woodlouses. Woodlouse in Dutch is pissbed, which literally means piss bed. The drinking of one's own urine. Okay, well, that's just a step too far. Oh, no, it goes farther. The eating of a roasted pig's penis, or the burying of a bottle of the child's urine with a corpse into the ground. So they just go at it, man. They just went as far as they could. Well, you're wet in the bed and you can't help it. Drink your own pee. And if that doesn't work, then eat a pig penis. Why not? Give it a shot. And if that really doesn't work, kill somebody and bury them with your child's urine. Gosh, that's crazy. See, this is entertaining, right? Like, you can't pay for entertainment like this. All right, the Thunder Chisel. A special magical tool that could be used for healing was the Donderbeitel, or Thunder Chisel. It was thought to be forged in heavenly fire and then fall down during thunderstorms. Because of its fire associations, it especially helped against hot, feverish diseases. The stone also helped animals. In a pig stable, it helped the pigs grow, and sick cows could be rubbed with it. The Donderbeitel also helped against the falling sickness and dangers that come with childbirth. Ah. Interesting. Hold on. So, that's a magical stone. Thunder Chisel. Need to get me one of them. The animal bath and other animal medicines. A particular gruesome healing ritual. Oh, you think they're going to get into the dead animals in the house right now? Because we still haven't found that one. Like I said, I never did find that anywhere in my research that, throw a dead animal in your house and you'll cure all flatulence for the next 30 years, whatever. I didn't find anything like that. But this right here, they say this is gruesome. So let's see what it is. Okay. A particular gruesome healing ritual is known as the animal bath. An animal was cut open. Oh, I already know what they're going to say. Oh, geez. Its guts are taken out. Then what was left was laid on the sick body or the wound that needed to be healed. Thus, a dog would be gutted and its corpse placed over the wound. In Amsterdam, one would stick the wounded limb in the freshly killed torso of a cow until it grew cold. The idea behind this is that the warmth and life force of the freshly killed body should seep into the sick body and thus heal it. And the other way around, the dying body of the animal takes with it the disease of the human's body. This ritual has been obscured for ages, so that its original meaning has been forgotten, though it is said that particular animals can heal particular diseases. A young pigeon heals the tuberculosis, and young frogs suck away the bad juices of cancer wounds. In more recent history, toads and frogs were used to lay on wounds, and living worms were used against against throat ache. You know what? I think my throat feels better, so no need to try that one. A cure for healing sweaty hands was to take a frog in the hands and crush it to death. Those poor frogs. All you do is have sweaty hands, bro. Why do you have sweaty hands? Just rub them on your fucking pants. Crush a poor damn frog over your sweaty ass hands, son. What the fuck's wrong with you, dog? Okay. The snake or the otter is an animal associated with eternal life. The otter was supposed to be so strong that it never dies before sunset, even when chopped into pieces. When bitten by an otter, people make use of a very old solution, taking a live otter, putting it in a bottle with rape oil? That's got to be a typo. Putting it in a bottle with rape oil and hanging it up on a tree. Well, I don't even know where they want to get the rape oil or how. This is akin to sympathetic magic, using something alike in a magical ritual to receive a certain effect. In this case, the use of the otter will heal the wounded from the otter's bite. All you need is a little rape oil. We can see the use of signature lore in laying cancers on the body of someone who is diagnosed with cancer, meaning that since they both have the same name, they are somehow connected. According to the same lore, deafness can be cured with bitter almond oil and finely cut clicamin in red wine. The leaves of a clicamin look like ears. Ah, well, there you go. The dead as healers. Okay, it's strange how often death itself is used as a cure. Ooh, I have a whole stream plan for you guys. I think it's... Hold on, let me check. Next week, next Tuesday, we'll be talking a little bit more about that sentence right there, so come back for that. Thus, a mole, also known as a death spot in some places in the Netherlands, though more commonly also referred to as a mother spot, could be cured by rubbing it against a corpse. Rubbing the spot with a cloth that was earlier placed on a dead body worked too. After that, the cloth is laid on a threshold over which the person who has the mole walks often. Oh, that kind of mole. I thought they meant like a mole in the ground. I thought they were like killing a poor innocent fucking mole, and I'm still reading on like, why are we killing moles now? It's not enough to kill the frogs. We got to kill those fuckers too. They mean a mole, like a big ass hairy mole on your face. So if you want to cure a big ass hairy mole on your face, or a death spot, rub it against a corpse. Well, that's still pretty bad. I think killing a mole in the ground is probably worse than that. Uh, or that's worse than killing a mole in the ground. I'd take that any day. Rub it on a corpse. Okay, then rub the spot with a cloth that was earlier placed on a dead body work too. Oh, that's a little better, a little more sanitary. After that, the cloth is laid on a threshold over which the person who has the mole walks often. When the cloth rots away, so the mole will disappear. Similarly, it is believed to be the first part of the body that starts to decompose after death. That's interesting. Okay, well, I'm going to go ahead and leave y'all folks with that. That's how you cure your moles, your ugly ass moles. Just go ahead and rub them on a dead body. Simple, right? Easy peasy. In the meantime, we're just going to take a quick 5-minute break because I got to take a piss. We haven't ran into a cure for that one yet. So I'm just going to go ahead and do the old fashioned take a piss in the toilet right now. When we come back, I think we got a list of other charms and curses. A charm is a charm and a curse, if you didn't know that. I didn't make that word up just now, I promise. We got a list of charms here that we can kind of go over that might be kind of fun. And then I want to dive into another kind of spooky aspect of this, right? I told you guys I still had a scary story, a little more true crime involved in this whole stream that we're doing about powwowing and all this other stuff. Okay, when we come back, we'll go over some more powwowing charms, and then we'll get into the, what is it called? The Hex Hollow Murders. Dun dun dun. Okay, so stay tuned for that. We're going to take a quick break. I'll be right back. In the meantime, stare at this awesome screen. Okay. Oh, no, we're not back. Sorry, my headphones just cut out, so I'm going to put you back on the Be Right Back screen. Sorry. Okay, we're back this time for real. I'm still getting the use of my. I got a Bluetooth headphone set that I'm using, and I'm still getting used to, well, using it. Sometimes it fucks up and like cuts me off, kicks me off in the most inopportune times, just to make an ass out of me. Okay, getting back into this. This was just some charms from powwowing. I think a lot of these were just things that you say, which is still, kind of interesting. I thought it'd be kind of fun to just go over some of them, right? If you find anyone useful, go ahead and write it down, and give it a good say so and come back and tell me if it helped. So here we go. To ensure safety from an angry dog, go ahead and chant, "Dog, hold thy nose to the ground. God has made me and thee, hound." So see if that works. If I would try that on a Pomeranian first before you graduate to like a pit bull or something. In the event that it doesn't work, you don't want to you don't want to fuck that one up with a big dog, right? So to cure a person of worms, you say, "You are a little worm not entirely grown. You plague me in marrow and bone. You may be white, black, or red. In a quarter of an hour you will be dead." Wow, that's dark. Those poor worms. A charm for personal safety. Oh, okay. Let's try this. Okay. Cross of Christ and crown of Christ and Jesus Christ. Red blood be to me at all times and all hours good. God the Father is before me. God the Son is at my side. God the Holy Ghost is behind me. Who now is stronger than these three persons may come to seize me. Then follow up with three paternosters. Paternosters? Paternosters. Pate masters. Well, I'll let you figure that out. Tell me if it works. To compel a dog, horse, or other animal to follow you. Casper guide thee, Balasar bind thee, Meliquar keep thee. Say 3 times, utter these words into the animal's right ear. I don't think you have to do that with a dog. In my experience, dogs will follow you wherever. I don't think it'll work on a horse. Horse won't follow you for shit unless it wants to. Horses do their own thing, man. So for wounds and stopping blood, let's see if this one requires you to breathe on the bleeding person again. Blessed is the day on which Jesus Christ was born. Blessed is the day on which Jesus Christ died. Blessed is the day on which Jesus Christ arose from the dead. These are the 3 holy hours. By these NN I stop thy blood. Thy sores shall neither swell nor fester. No more shall that happen than that the Virgin Mary will bear another son. So I guess say that to your bleeding wound and see if you don't die. Protection from sorcery. Take elm wood on Good Friday, cut the same while calling the holiest names. Cut chips of this wood from 1 to 2 inches in length. Carve on them in the 3 holiest names the 3 crosses. Wherever such a slip is placed, all sorcery will be banished. Oh, so in case one of your friends ends up being a witch, that's how you do that. I used to know a girl. I kind of fooled around with a girl once that was a witch. And I didn't really stay a long time because that was kind of freaky. And since then, I've never wanted to mess with that again. So if you ever run into a similar situation, though, my friends, just go grab some of that elm wood. A protective talisman to be hung in the home, hidden in a secret place, or carried with you. Okay, well, there's your talisman. That looks easy enough. A charm to make a thief return stolen goods, to remove skin infections, to stop blood. There's a lot of stopping blood on here. Charm to cure burns. I imagine they had to do the stopping blood one. They probably had to try 5 or 6 of them before they found the one that worked, and that ended up being stitches. Charm to cure burns, to guard your home against thieves and witches. Oh, so another very important one. Let's take a look at this then. Take a glass of water and repeat over it 77 times. Adonia Elohim, the Lord my God. Pour the water around the perimeter of your home. This is believed to prevent witches and thieves from infiltrating your property. Made more powerful if done on a holy day after taking sacrament at church. Okay, good to know. Heartburn. All these charms, I get excited. Interesting charm in its language variations. Okay, it doesn't say what it's for, so I'm going to skip that one. to keep more witches away from your property. Always important. In the Amish community, there is an old belief that if a bundle of St. John's wort was hung over the door of the house or barn, no witch could enter and no witchcraft could affect the people or animals within. In these days of the prevalence of hexery, why take chances, right? That's what I'm saying. Sealing a powwow working for easing pains. Hold hand over painful area and recite 3 times. Holy, holy chicken dirt. Tomorrow morning it won't hurt. They got that out of a children's book. Come on. Blow on the area 3 times, then seal with the sign of the cross. Okay, well, you know, my cutie pie, she gets back pain sometimes. And I know you're watching this, cutie, so we're going to try that tonight. On your back. Holy, holy chicken dirt. All over that back of yours. To banish fevers. I don't know what that is right there. Against evil spirits and all manner of witchcrafts. Okay, to protect your home from all manners of evil. In chalk or white stone just outside your doorstep, mark on the ground 3 crosses spaced equal distance apart while saying, Praise be to the Lord, the God of Israel, because he has come and has redeemed his people. He has raised up a horn of salvation for us in the house of his servant David, as he said through his holy prophets, this is a long thing to say, long ago. Salvation from our enemies and from the hand of all who hate us. Hopefully you don't have to say it in one breath, otherwise you're fucked. To soothe and ache pains. Oh, here's another one for Cutie Pie's back. Place hands gently on the afflicted area. Repeat the following for a total of 3 times. This seems like a long one, but let's give it a shot. I will exalt you, O Lord, for you lifted me out of the depths. I'm sorry, I'm just picturing me standing over my girlfriend doing this and how quickly she would leave me. And did not let my enemies gloat over me. O Lord my God, I called to you for help, and you healed me. O Lord, you brought me up from the grave. You spared me from going down into the pit. Excerpts from Psalms 30, spoken with devotion. Ah, so you gotta mean it. To stop a wound from bleeding. There's another one. You know, they must have had to really try that until they figured it out. To determine if you've been bewitched, rub a raw egg from the top of your head down the length of your body to your feet 3 times. Break the egg into a dish or fireplace. If there is blood in the egg, it is a sign that negative witchery has been cast on you. Oh, shit. You know what? I've actually seen that. Not in real life, but in a movie. The Curse of La Llorona. That was a Blumhouse movie, I think it was. If you haven't seen it, it's a pretty entertaining movie. It's not the best scary movie you're ever going to see, but that was in there. Dude rubbed eggs all over a family that was cursed by La Llorona and cracked them open. It was all bloody eggs. That's where they got it from. Look at that. To remove negative witchery and return it to the witch. Boil a piece of beef, and while it is cooking, keep sticking it with a needle. The one who bewitched you will have the same pains, and the spell upon you will be broken. Oh, look, I like that one. Okay. Well, so there you go. Weather charm. Hold on, I might be needing this in the next few days. Hold a red knife in the air, blade facing oncoming storm, and say 3 times. 3 angels ride the winds to lands both far and near. Go west, go east, go south, go north, but do not linger here. Stick the knife into the ground. What do you think my neighbor, all 3 of my neighbors, all 3 Bobs would say if they saw me doing that? They'd probably stop talking to me. They'd stop coming over to tell me about, you know, how my grass is too fucking long. You know, that curse might not help the weather, but it'll keep my neighbors from bitching at me. Okay, so there are some good charms for you, right? If you feel like getting into this, there's some brochere and powwowing charms you can jump into. This is like starter stuff, you know, easy peasy. You don't got to boil any frogs alive or rub a wart on a corpse or anything. You just, you know, say some shit into the wind and wave a knife around, and there's a couple stick a stake with a needle. Stuff like that. Pretty, you know, beginner level witchcraft. So there you go if you're interested. Okay, so now we're going to dive into, let's see, hold on. What was I supposed to, let's see. This was video. We're watching a video. We went somewhere else. Okay, back to video. So this is the Hex Hollow Murders. Stop playing. Thank you. The Hex Hollow Murders is a brochere-related murder, very infamous murder that happened in 1928. So let's go ahead and watch a little bit of this right now.
I'm Victoria Missick, and I teach one of the most diverse acting classes.
This is a whole bunch of advertisements. Okay.
In the world, working with Adobe Acrobat
Well,
AI
if you need
assistant,
acting
I am
classes,
creating
here
the
you
business
go.
of acting manual to help others navigate through this industry. The manual of this size would take me maybe a year. With AI assistant, it gives you a skeleton to follow.
Skip ad. It's a very long title screen.
Hi, I'm Mike Argento, columnist with the York Daily Record. And on Halloween morning, we're here at the Hex Murder House in Raymeyer's Hollow in southern York County, site of one of the most notorious crimes in York County history, the murder of Nelson Raymeyer. Nelson Raymeyer was a farmer who lived here alone. He was kind of an eccentric guy. He was estranged from his wife. And he practiced powwowism, which is kind of a Pennsylvania Dutch form of voodoo, sort of a witchcraft. There's this fellow that knew him named John Blymeyer, who was having a really bad streak in 1928 when this occurred. His wife had left him, 2 of his kids had died, and he blamed a spell that he believes Nelson Raymeyer put on him. So on Thanksgiving Eve in 1928...
So, just to break up the video a little bit, fair use and copyright and whatever, at this point you should know, being as educated on powwowing as you all are now, that that's probably not what happened. I mean, obviously, okay, all logic aside, dude probably didn't curse other dude, but that's not what braccieri and powwowing is, right? You don't curse people. You protect yourself from other people's curses. So the general gist is this poor old dude who was a powwower got the reputation around town that he was into voodoo. Like this guy said, it's a kind of voodoo. You know that's not true now, right? Because you're smarter than this guy. But that this dude who got murdered probably got that reputation around town. He was into voodoo. Some other guy down on his luck said, hey, you know, my life sucks and it's probably this asshole's fault. He cursed me and because he didn't know what braccieri was. And, well, you'll see what happened.
Blymeyer and 2 teenagers came to visit Mr. Raymeyer, tied him up, beat him to death, and set his body on fire. The fire went out by itself.
He was pissed.
And the next day, Nelson Raymeyer's body was discovered on Thanksgiving 1928. The 3 suspects were arrested, convicted, and sentenced to life in prison. And eventually they were paroled, and that wasn't quite the end of the story. The story has kind of taken on a life of its own in York County. It's one of our most enduring Halloween legends. The story of the Hex murder, and this is where it happened. The Hex House in Raymeyer's Hollow in southern York County.
They thought the house would burn to the ground, and that would be the lantern oil all over his body. And whatever they had won after they were done with the fighting and murdered him, then they took what they wanted.
Back to almost exactly of the night of his murder, from the cabinet over in the corner there and everything is set exactly in its place is the night of his murder.
Of the night of his murder, they the fighting and the wrestling around and stuff, they got him down, laid him on the floor, and threw pillows and quilts and stuff on top of him, underneath of him and around. Kerosene lantern, dumped all the oil all over him. Lit him on fire. I should say with the kerosene lamp, and then threw the other one on top to light it on fire, and then out the door and closed all the doors and out in the fire. My grandma and her sister was raised here. This was his farm. He did potatoes. This was his life, farming and powwowing and helping people. I talked to many people. They're just about all passed away. And he was a very likable man.
Did that say the clock stopped after he died? Just stopped after he died? The clock stopped just after he died. Ooh, shit. It's that hardcore powwowing, stopping clocks and shit.
He was a very likable man. He would do anything for anybody.
Every year at Halloween, newspapers do an article. Every year at Halloween, my poor husband gets harassed. You know, so now let everybody know the real story. That's what it's about. You know, he was a good man. He wasn't a bad man. They held church picnics out here in the yard. He's buried in a church cemetery. You know, there's so many things that people really don't know. So all you hear is the negative, and we want people to know there is a positive side.
You never heard that many stories about somebody saying, you know, Nelson put a hex on me. It was always Nelson cured me from anemia, Nelson cured me from, you know, cholera. I brought my baby to Nelson. It was always a positive thing that he did. Except in Bleimeyer's situation, he believed that Nelson had cast a hex on him. And hex in German means witch. They were called Hexenmeisters. That's how we got the label of the White Witch of Braemar's Hollow.
Do you ever see this? Look at all the. It was all kept back and kept away from me, so I would, I guess, show it to the world, I guess.
Okay, so that's the Hex Hollow murder. Yeah, this house is still standing. It's on the edge of a highway. And where was this at? York? Did they say where this happened? Oh, that's right. I got an article right here. Okay. York County's Hex murder. I don't know where York County is, to be honest with you. But, yeah, so you got the kind of general gist of it. Dude got murdered. We're going to read a little bit more about it here. It's a pretty local legend in that area of the world. So what happened at Thanksgiving in 1928, not Halloween as is often supposed, a trio assailed a farmer late one night in a remote southeastern York County Valley, Rameyer's Hollow. So I think that's the place where it's called Rameyer's Hollow. That's the place this happened at. So in Rameyer's Hollow, they got a highway that goes by this old rickety-ass house. That creepy house. The kids go there and spook each other every year by running in and, you know, daring each other to run in. Oh, here we go. This is where, remember I told you about that book, Long Lost Friend, right? That was famous book on powwowing spells and whatnot. I told you, remember, keep that in mind because it's going to come up again. Well, here we go. So what about the victim? Farmer Nelson Raymeyer was married but estranged from his wife and lived alone. He was reclusive, odd, maybe socialistic in his politics, and was believed to be a powwower, a practitioner of folk magic and healing rituals, sometimes called white magic. And, as you guys know, braceri. Here's an example of a cure for hysteria and colds from the Bible of powwowers, the early 19th century book Long Lost Friend. This must be attended to every evening, that is, whenever you pull off your shoes and stockings, run your fingers in between all the toes and smell it. This will certainly affect a cure. That is a cure for hysteria and colds. Run your fingers in between your toes and smell it. You know, I mean, I like this is hilarious. So, yeah, this guy that died, Nelson Raymeyer, actually had the Long Lost Friend book in his possession. It was with him when he died. And that brought on a somewhat not nefarious, I keep saying that word, a somewhat notorious reputation for this particular book. Okay, so what sparked the crime? That's Fort John Bleimeyer was not having a good year. Yeah, his good year was not good. This goes a little bit deeper into it. For as long as he could remember, the years had not been good. His wife had left him. 2 of his 3 children had died. He had great difficulty in staying employed, and he had wandered aimlessly about the streets of York and the surrounding countryside, with the witches he imagined always in pursuit. So this guy had a bummer of a life, right? Bleimeyer consulted a witch in Marietta in Lancaster County, who pointed to Nelson Raymeyer as the culprit behind his bad luck. Hess, whose family was going through a bad streak, also sought to break the spell. So he didn't just willy-nilly decide, hey, this fucking guy over here, he went to a witch, and the witch made this happen, huh? So, yeah, the initial goal of this band of misfits, the trio sought to obtain Nelson Raymeyer's copy of Long Lost Friend, along with a lock of the suspected witch's hair, which were to be buried 6 feet under behind the barn. That was the spell to break the spell. So, that's what they were going to do, and they went a little bit farther than that, you know. So what happened? There was a struggle, and the trio tied up the farmer, beat him to death, and set fire to his body. That's intense, you know. You went from burying hair to killing a motherfucker. You know, that's like 0 to 100 real fast. After all that, they fled the crime scene. Raymeyer's body was discovered about a day later, on Thanksgiving Day. Okay, what happened next? Raymeyer left behind his wife and 2 children. That's sad. That really sucks. What were the outcome of the trials? All 3 were convicted and given life sentences. Well, that's probably a good thing. In testimony, the role of witchcraft, spells, and the light came out. Journalists from all over covered the trial, and this trial, with those elements of witchcraft, made international news. What happened to the defendants? All 3 were released after serving time, and each went on to live quiet lives. John Curry became the best known. His artistic skills earned him a spot as a cartographer on Eisenhower's staff in World War II. Oh, wow. Holy shit. And his paintings hang in the homes of many York Countians alive today. The thing most misunderstood about the Hex murder. This moment is often trivialized, but it's a tragedy. A man was killed in a gruesome manner after a home invasion, all alone in a spot that is so remote that it's hard to explain its location. A couple of other serious points. It's a story of how society failed to address the needs of the mentally ill. John Blymeyer. That's true. Dude had some issues. And it laid open systemic abuse on the healing arts that were based on superstition instead of science. Okay, so if you want to read more about this, J. Ross McGinnis's book, Trial of Hex, is the gold standard for this, any information regarding this instance. So, yeah, there you go. See, the house, dang, I just closed the other tab, but man, that house looks really homely right there. But nowadays, it looks pretty decrepit. And, oh yeah, so here is some of those hexes, right? I told you, hey, we're going to look at some of these Dutch hexes. This is a painting I found that somebody did of various hexes in Dutch magic. So they're actually really fucking pretty, right? You think of hexes, you think of like scribbles and like, and you know, satanic shit and whatever. And this is like, oh wow, that's really pretty. Like it looks like a fucking quilt, you know? You put that shit on a t-shirt. I think that was the only picture that was there. Yeah. Oh yeah. So from this point on, I just wanted to give you some resources if you're interested in reading and hearing more about this particular topic. I'm pretty much done for the day. We got 2 hours under the belt, so I'm out ski. But if you enjoy this kind of topic, this kind of stuff, hexery, broceri, powwowing, all of that, here is some recommendations for you to dive into. So some book recommendations: The Red Church, The Art of Pennsylvania German Broceri. Hex and Spellwork, The Magical Practices of Pennsylvania Dutch. That's by Carl Eyre and C.R. Bilardi wrote the first one. Powwowing Among the Pennsylvania Dutch, A Traditional Medical Practice in the Modern World by David Kreibel. Hex Signs, Pennsylvania Dutch Barn Symbols and Their Meaning, Revised and Expanded, Don Yoder and Thomas E. Graves. And so those are some good books you can jump into. I might grab one of those books, maybe like that first one, look up some crazy spells, and get back to you fellas. The Red Church, get back to you guys, and tell you if any of that works. This is a really cool website that I found called Bone and Sickle. Let's go to I think we are on the About page. So this is a podcast. The Bone and Sickle website is all about this podcast, the Bone and Sickle podcast. This particular podcast is, how long was it? I think it was a 2-hour long podcast. 45-minute podcast on witches, healers, and hex cats in old Pennsylvania. So this will give you a lot more info on hexery and broceri. I listened to a little bit of it, and there was some pretty interesting stuff in there this was more about some of the more like the beliefs that they had, some myths and legends regarding broceri and hexery. But this particular website, we might be coming back to here shortly about Bone and Sickle. Bone and Sickle explores historical topics related to folklore and horror. Every episode offers a bounty of frightful tales, fantastic legends, and macabre historical anecdotes, harvested by eccentric artist, collector, and rogue folklorist Al Ritterenor, author of The Krampus and the Old Dark Christmas, and A Season of Madness, Fools, Monsters, and Marvels of the Old World Carnival. So, yeah, this is a pretty interesting website. You guys might want to, if you're into that kind of stuff, folklore and horror, which I think is pretty fucking cool, entertaining. That's why I chose to do the podcast on this stuff today, obviously. Check out the Bone and Sickle podcast on boneandsickle.com. And last but not least, I thought this was kind of interesting. This is Orglave International, the primal faith. We already know about all that. This is the original faith, also is another name for it. This is actually a resources here. Do they have an about page so I get this right? This is a community, an international website, international community that gives you information on all the regional Orglave groups that still exist. So here you go. If you look at the various groups, you got, here's one in San Diego, Seattle, North Carolina, California. Gives you information on all of them. Here's different guilds. Got a newsletter. That's nice. It's a nice looking newsletter. And yeah, they give you, here's connects to the Orglave Facebook group and a whole series of different podcasts where you can go to learn more about herbalism and Orglave and different stuff within the Orglave religion. So that's kind of interesting, you know, if you're interested in learning more about that particular religion. I thought that was kind of cool. This is still a religion that's around nowadays. So that's kind of neat, right? Okay, and boom, we're done. That's it. I'm out ski. Thank you for showing up. I appreciate it. I hope you found this episode to be entertaining at the very least, if not insightful. Might have been low on the creepy crawlies and the scary stuff. You know, I get that. I did know that when I was making this podcast. I did note the fact that, well, this isn't uber scary shit we're talking about here, but it is interesting. You know, hey, one guy got killed, you know, other people found dead shit in their walls. That's pretty spooky, right? So next Tuesday, if you really enjoy these terrifying Tuesdays, next Tuesday, we're going to be going over corpse medicine, which is way freakier than what we went on today. This was my first Terrifying Tuesday. Give me a break. It wasn't, we'll call this a kind of Terrifying Tuesday, a sort of Terrifying Tuesday. So a not so Terrifying Tuesday. But still, I hope you enjoyed yourself. I hope you had fun, learned some stuff. That's what this whole channel is about, is learning new things, doing research on interesting shit. And Tuesdays, we learn about kind of spooky, macabre type shit. Tomorrow is Wildlife Wednesdays. That's pretty self-explanatory. I'll be doing some research on a particular wildlife topic, and that is the Jabba Fofi. That's what we'll be researching tomorrow. So if you don't know what that is, tune in tomorrow. In the meantime, thank you very much for watching. Hope you have a wonderful rest of your night, and I will talk to you then.